I think the issue revolves around the fact that a lot of the regulations today, there are big company obligations that small companies have to deal with, key element, and that digital transformation can assist with that, and so too with AI, by the way. So, reducing that routine work, the work that's being done, same companies who have a cast of thousands, and that's probably a bit over the top, but they have a lot of people to advise them. Small business owners don't have that capacity.
Welcome to SoftLabs, podcast series 2, where leadership matters. I'm your host, Manjula Viswanath, Director of Corporate Solutions. Each episode, we dive into the latest in software development, emerging technologies, and the ideas shaping our digital future. Today, we have with us Mr. Geoff Cooper. Geoff has over 30 years' experience in senior management, business development, sales, and marketing roles with both large and small companies. From information technology, technical systems, engineering, through senior level and regional appointment as a CEO of Australian software companies, Geoff operates his own consulting business, Quantum, to leverage sales and marketing activities and building strategies. Geoff, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Manjula. I'm pleased to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. So, Geoff, can you share with us what does digital transformation look like for small companies in 2026?
Thanks, Manjula. I'll come at it from a small business perspective, in particular with my role as a chairman with the CEO Institute, in which I have 2 syndicates of a dozen in one syndicate of small business owners, and a lot of them are family business owners. So the environment today in small business is that it is very complex. It's becoming more complex, and the pressures that exist today didn't exist 10 years ago.
Sure.
And that complexity is wrapped around compliance in particular. So no longer are we're creating a product or creating a service, or we're dealing with customers. The regulatory requirements are becoming increasingly more complex and more difficult. The issue is that the small business doesn't have the resources to cope for it. So something has to give. So digital transformation can't be just about software. It has to be about the processes that these companies have to deal with now, day in, day out. And reality is small business needs to create an environment whereby they can have a business that is survivable and resilient to take advantage or cope with the changes that will inevitably come over the years.
True, that sounds really true. Can you let us know what could be the company obligations in terms of resourcing, especially small businesses?
I think the issue revolves around the fact that a lot of the regulations today, there are big company obligations that small companies have to deal with, and the smaller companies don't have those type of resources to enable them. So things, if you consider what's happened over the last few years in particular, and a lot of them around people, Fair Work Commission obligations is a really big one, and understanding what they are, and things like we used to be able to have a working environment that was safe for employees, but it's now expanded into psychological safety, and that's a big one. And that's not saying that these are wrong things, but it's something that every business owner has to cope with. Things like cybersecurity requirements now, never around years ago. The protection of data, the protection of client data, the protection of customer data, the protection of employee data, and protection of financial data. Things like rising insurance premiums is another one. That's a very, very big one. And also those cultural changes that they need to cope with respect to hybrid work. So digital transformation can start to help businesses cope with this, with all these changes and the complexities.
And what do you think AI is playing a part in 2026 and 10 years from now? Will that increase, or will it be stagnated, and would that affect human resources in companies?
Well, AI is a heavily spoken about topic right now. And I think every company, if you investigate it, everyone is using it in some way, shape or form, and it may be in a rudimentary form. The advice that we are given from people who are experts in the field is that you need to do a really in-depth audit and analysis of what your business is doing. And this fits perfectly into digital transformation as well, is understanding what my processes are, understanding what my procedures are. Can they be done better? Do I have procedures that have been with us for many, many years and it's just ongoing? So what is a better way of transforming those into a more digital sense? And what that allows you to do then is, if you look at sales and scheduling and operations and finance and HR, they are perfect examples of how we can get workflows that operate cleanly and consistently, and how they integrate together. And if you think of all the administrative processes, including the ones I've just mentioned on the obligations, they eat away at margin because they're in addition to what companies have been doing for years and years and years. And someone has to do it. They either employ resources, either consultants, or they employ people. And with margins in business very tight today in the economic situation, that's a really difficult proposition. So, it's a really good CEO doesn't really have too much of a choice in this. He has to grab the internal mechanisms of the company and start to transform them if he's going to have a company that will be able to survive and be resilient and cope in the future.
As of today, do you think AI is well understood with small and medium and large sector companies?
It's very difficult to answer that. Certainly, we find that small business owners are very attuned to listening to AI and AI discussions around what can I do, but they want practical stuff. They want to know how I can use AI in a practical sense today to generate better workflows and to understand how can I streamline my operations. And it's not just AI. I mean, I've got a really good example recently of someone who's installed a cobot, for example, in a rural location for bagging seeds. Great example. Double productivity and releasing some of the staff, not from the fact that I want to get rid of staff, but the fact that I need to deploy staff into other areas of the business so I can start to grow. So they're the opportunities that are coming.